everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chris Townsend. I am the Director of Marketing here at Imaginatic. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Phil Swisher from Brown Brothers Harriman, who is today's guest speaker. Before we get started, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping items. First of all, there will be the opportunity to ask questions as we go along. There are two spots during the presentation today when we will stop and address all questions that have come in. This is meant to be as interactive as possible. We always have a ton of great questions and great dialogue whenever we run a webinar, so I really encourage you to type your questions into the questions panel on the GoToWebinar controls, and we'll address those at each break. Also, after this broadcast, there will be a recording of the talk and copies of the slides that will be available, plus a special gift, which is Phil Swisher's thought paper on establishing a Chief Innovation Function. We'll get a little bit more into that in a second. For now, I'd like to give you a brief intro to Imaginatic. Imaginatic has a long and rich history serving innovation at major enterprises across the world. We have over 16 years of experience with innovation at major brands, and a lot of experience that's led to, if we go to slide 2, some major wins that we can produce for clients across the board. So this covers all areas of innovation, from new product pipeline development to major cost savings, efficiency gains, and better ways of working together, to new ways to serve customers, new product opportunities, and new ways to go to market. Our mission is to help organizations develop sustainable innovation competence. So what that means is all these results are part of an enterprise-wide discipline that we work with you as a client over time to help you become permanently innovative as a culture and as an organization, to embed deeper capabilities across your organization for how to innovate continuously. That really means working on what we believe is both a core creative process and a core business process for innovation. So the creative process really rests on discovery and ideation, both being able to come up with breakthrough new concepts and insights, and be able to collect ideas and knowledge from stakeholders across the company, from different groups, from customers, from partners, from everywhere where you can find good ideas. On the flip side, being both creative and widely collaborative necessitates the need to turn those insights and ideas into something real that can show tangible benefits back to the business. So we know through experience that being able to make the right decisions on which ideas to pursue and why, and tracking those results for tangible value to the enterprise is critical for innovation to work successfully, especially as a scaled program across an organization. As we work with you to develop this kind of program, we have 3 main lobes of development. One is the ability to chart the course for innovation, and this means both on an individual project level for specific results and for that wider program. So this means strategy, it means vision, it means getting the leadership team aligned, and it means setting a path and a plan, almost a roadmap for innovation. We also help you to unlock the actual ideas and insights that become great new ways of going to market, great cost savings, efficiency gains, and all the rest. And we help spread the best practices in doing that work across the organization through training, coaching, leadership development, and actually classroom style learning over time to embed those core capabilities and behaviors across your enterprise. That's a little bit about Imaginatic. I'd like to talk now about today's subject. We have the innovation leader of Brown Brothers Harriman with us today. Brown Brothers Harriman is a really interesting case study in innovation because they are a very unique firm that is both a global custodian bank, meaning they have a huge amount of assets under custody, and also a limited partnership where 41 partners have complete and total ownership and liability for the firm. This creates an interesting dynamic both with the need to innovate, especially in an industry which is known for sticking to tried and true practices and needing to find a way to move into new markets and new opportunities, while also being respectful of a long-running culture and history of success. We find that there are many companies in both financial services and insurance that feel the need to innovate as a larger, across the enterprise type of program because of the fact that they feel it's so crucial for the future of their place in the industry, especially the way things are changing today. So very conservative, tried and true type of business model with a relatively risk-averse culture, yet the need to take risks in some way to build the future of the firm. And that creates a rather strong need on slide 7 to have someone who can build a real innovation function. So we at Imaginatic have seen that when companies do develop a real innovation function with a chief innovation officer or head of innovation, great things can happen. However, there are a lot of roadblocks and obstacles along the way in setting up this new kind of function with its own kind of discipline, its own kind of process, and the ability to connect across the enterprise to the existing business. So we have Phil Swisher here today. He leads innovation at Brown Brothers Harriman and has a fantastic story to tell. As I mentioned before, Phil is the author of a great paper on why an innovation function is so important. You'll all receive a copy of this after the talk today. And Phil has a really unique background. He's been an entrepreneur. As he likes to brag about, he's been the founder of a startup that's helped collect garbage for the Kraft family here in Massachusetts. Wildly successful in that respect, and has since gone on to bring his entrepreneurial talents to managing and leading innovation at Brown Brothers. With that, Phil, why don't I toss things to you? I think there's a lot of interesting content to get into.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, and thank you all for joining us today. Again, my name is Phil Swisher, and let me get the slides up. All right, so the plan for today, there are only 10 slides of content. We want to keep this very quick. These are the same slides I showed to internal management at Brown Brothers. This is exactly the tactics and techniques that we use, and we want to share it. And my view on innovation is that the tools and processes and techniques are very open source. I'm really happy to share them with everyone. And so hope to get your thoughts here on this. So we're going to pause twice for Q&A breaks in the middle of the slides, so I will not talk for probably more than 10 minutes at a clip, and would very much like this to be a dialogue. And so with that, give you a quick overview here. So in 2010, the innovation function was created. So we've been at this about 2.5 years, and it's a commercial catalyst role. So the long-term goal is to make a meaningful financial impact on the firm by building new products and services. And if you think about the base level, what you need in order to actually innovate inside a company or have an innovation function, you really need 3 critical elements. And this is in many ways the base level of what you need. So you need good ideas, the time to work on them, and the capital to fund them. And since 2010, all 3 of those elements have always been present at BBH. So innovation is a very ephemeral topic, and it's something that people aren't totally clear on what it is or how it works and things like that. So this is something we created to make life a little easier, make it a little more tangible. There's 2 main areas we focus. We focus on solutions, the commercial side, as well as the infrastructure side for innovation. So on the solutions, the most obvious, of course, is pursuing promising ideas directly. We identify and pursue and build commercial opportunities ourselves. We're also an internal venture capitalist where we have a capital budget that we use to fund promising ideas throughout the firm. And these are typically ideas that are a little more speculative or smaller or less clear, so they don't go through the normal firm-wide budgeting process because they likely wouldn't succeed. And the VC thing is a bit of a misnomer in the sense that there's obviously no term sheets. We really hand out free money, and we obviously our reputation and our credibility is on the line with everyone. And I'll speak a little later about the governance. So there really isn't a term sheet in the true VC sense. And one other critical piece is actually cost accounting. We do not allocate out our costs to anyone. We're retained, much like the website, because if we were to allocate our costs to the business units we work with, they might have a reluctance to speak with us because most of the things in an innovation function don't work. And so if someone with an 80% failure rate says, hey, can I come talk to you and charge you P&L, they probably don't want to. And obviously, in innovation, the more people you talk to and the more ideas you have and the more dots you can connect, the more successful you'll be. So we are a free resource to the people around the firm with the best ideas, and obviously we pursue our own ideas as well, and we hand out free money. So that's a great way to win friends in an organization, and also I think very important. And that paper that Chris referenced we'll send around goes into more detail there. Another critical piece is external wisdom. So we spend a lot of time with external experts. We created an innovation leaders networking group with my counterpart at Fidelity. I spend a lot of time with people who are investors for a living. Association is one of the most important concepts in innovation, the connecting of the dots where dots previously haven't been connected. And Clay Christensen talks a lot about this in his new book, The Innovator's DNA, and a lot of other people as well. And so if you think about someone who, say, has worked in the venture capital business for 10 years, they've probably seen 1,000 companies in that time frame. So if you speak to that person about a promising new idea, their ability to connect the dots or advance your idea is substantially greater than someone who's had a more traditional corporate job. So we spend a lot of time with investors and are in active dialogues with them to try and advance our best ideas as quickly as possible. So that's the solution side. And then the infrastructure side, and this is really the skill building, the culture, the HR, and the stuff that's almost impossible to measure, but really critically vital to build a long-term culture of innovation. So the first piece is being a catalyst. So we want to be a catalyst for innovation and collaboration. So this is helping business units and office heads set up innovation programs. This is working with management teams. This is running business plan contests. This is making knowledge more visible. We have a firm-wide idea collaboration software platform. All those things are critical. We also on the HR side, try and build a stronger culture. So this is things like skill building. So for example, if someone's never built a new product before, they're probably not so sure where to start or how to do it. So we work with people who are trying to do entrepreneurial things, who have a mandate to build something new. We do a lot of mentoring, a lot of career advising. It's actually interesting. We're not really in anyone's reporting line, so oftentimes people feel comfortable coming our way, and we help them with their careers or their goals or ways we can help them provide new opportunities for themselves. And one of the things we're very fond of saying is that if you think about your own career, and this is how innovation can help you, most people will apply for their next job, and that's sort of the traditional route that most people do. But the other opportunity inside with an innovation function is that you have the ability to create your next job. And I think that's a very powerful opportunity that an innovation function can offer within a company. And we've certainly had people at BBH who have, with our help, created their next job, and I think that's a really powerful track record and something to show, because there are people who have advanced their careers, been promoted, created their next job, and really seen significant success. And I think the authenticity and credibility of an innovation function is really bolstered substantially when you can really show the track record of making a meaningful improvement in people's careers. And the last piece, metrics and advocacy. So this is measuring engagement. We also do a lot with influencing core business priorities. So we have an annual budget process here at BBH, and one of the things we do is when there are innovative things that we are advocating for in other people's budgets, not our own, we will help write business cases. And you can imagine if you call up someone who's very busy towards the end of the year and say, hey, could we help write a business case? You make a lot of friends very quickly. And it's also a way for us to advance and advocate for the most promising ideas. We also provide metrics to senior management around what's in our pipeline, what are we working on, how innovative are some of the broader efforts and things like that. So we do that as well. So the next slide here. One second. Okay, there we go. So this is the single page slide that we show to management teams around the world. And if you think about most business unit heads and senior executives, they're all very busy. They have a lot of priorities, and everyone's always conceptually on board with innovation because it's very hard to be opposed to innovation. And certainly at BBH, people have been very, very supportive. And the thing that's very important is to make it very easy and tangible and specific so that people can say, great, I'm in favor of innovation. Now what can I do? And so we put it on a page and make it really simple. And so this is the one-pager we give to management teams around the world. And I always tell people that it's not a pop quiz, but we'll certainly be back around to discuss where things are. And top-performing management teams on the innovation dimension answer all of these questions well. So the first one is commercial projects where there's uncertainty, so things that are a little further out on the risk spectrum, because clearly that's important. The second piece ties a little bit back into the first, the small-scale experiments and pilot programs, and what are people doing that are around the emerging technologies, around things that they're running experiment-wise to gather data, test hypotheses, figure out where new opportunities might be, and really building that stronger culture of experimentation, of data gathering, hypothesis testing, and really quickly getting to meaningful learning outcomes. The third piece is the culture question, building innovation into the lives of team members. We really don't care how, it's just whatever works best culturally and within that office. And as you can imagine, the approaches in Luxembourg versus Tokyo versus Boston or New York are very different, and we really encourage people to best align what they want to do with the local culture and expectations. For the management team specifically, one of the most critical elements of a successful innovation program is having senior management directly involved in the creative process, not just overseeing that. And so that's 4A. And 4B is really another critical question. This actually came from Lou Gerstner, who's the former CEO of IBM, and saying, how many clients have you spoken with, excluding sales and service, and how you really learning your clients' businesses better, understanding what their needs are, where the gaps are, things like that. So that's always a very illuminating question. Question 5 is another HR question as far as who are the most significant contributors on your innovation efforts. We obviously have our own black book, if you will, of highly innovative and creative people, and certainly we get a lot of internal calls when someone says, hey, I really need to hire someone who's creative or entrepreneurial. Who would you recommend? And we do a lot of work advancing people's careers and advocating for those folks as well, but always good to get more insight on who people think are the most impactful. Number 6, the impediment, of course, trying to better understand where are the constraints, and then, of course, what can we do to help eliminate them. And then 7 is getting feedback on our work. So that is the first few slides here, and we will now pause for Q&A.
Thanks, Phil, very much. We actually have a lot of questions coming in already. I'd like to start with one about sort of timeline. So you talked about several different innovation activities that your team is involved in. Did you do all those from the beginning, or was there sort of a development and progression building those out?
There was definitely a development, Chris. I think the BBH has a very strong culture, and it's almost a 200-year-old institution, and it's very collaborative. And so one of the really important things is to really just understand the firm and the culture. And so when I first joined BBH, when I was hired into this role, I was new to the firm, and so I took a Census Bureau approach, really, and went around the firm to most of our offices, introduced myself to the management teams, asked for their input, asked for their advice, and really got to better understand their businesses and their goals. And I think that was really helpful to understand how things work. We really focused on a lot of the culture and just making knowledge more visible, getting the word out about here's what we're doing, here's how we can help you, here's what our resources are, ideas, time, and money, and really just tried to first just get the word out and build strong relationships and understand more deeply why things are the way they are. And I think one of the really critical elements of an innovation function is to really deeply understand your own firm's culture, way of doing business, and really why things are the way they are. And BBH is a very intentional firm, and I think once you have that knowledge, you're in a much better position to suggest different ways or be more effective in pursuing new opportunities. Change in and of itself is never a goal, but we're in the process of pursuing new opportunities. Certainly things will change. So I'd say really the culture and the infrastructure side is where we're focused on first, and then as that unfolded, we spent more and more time on the solutions and on developing things as well as funding opportunities. So I'd say everything starts with the people and the culture, and then building out to the products from there.
That makes a lot of sense. Another question, do you develop concepts into prototypes yourself within the innovation team, or do you act more as internal consultants to the rest of the organization?
We do both. We typically prefer to develop the prototypes ourselves, and then we partner with other business units around the firm in building things out more fully. But the more we can build our own prototypes and do that, the more effective and fast-moving we can be. And obviously, we contend less with the priorities and resources of the core business if we're more independent. Though we certainly are happy to, especially on opportunities with existing business units, the things we're not necessarily running with ourselves that might pertain to an existing business unit, partnering with that business unit and doing it in whatever manner they prefer. So it really does vary, and we can do both. It depends more on the type of product it is and who we're working with, if any existing business unit, or if it's something totally new.
Right, right. Very good, very good. There's a lot of questions about staffing. How many people are on your staff? Can you talk a little more about what you look for, whether they report straight to you? Where do you yourself report to?
Sure. So the innovation team is 3 people. And so BBH, as Chris mentioned, is a partnership. There's 41 partners. So I report into one of the partners. He's one of the 10 most senior partners in the bank. It's a very collaborative decision-making process and management style. So there really are 41 people overseeing it in many senses. And as Chris mentioned, each partner has unlimited liability for the debts of the firm. And so if you think about building something new, people will look at it and say, that's great, but also, obviously, what's the risk profile since their house is on the line? So it's a very collaborative decision-making process. And so I formally sit in our largest business unit, the custody business unit, and report into one of the 10 most senior partners. So certainly speak with many. And I think the partner's favorite question of anyone on the innovation team is, hey, what's in the pipeline? And from a staffing and hiring perspective, we are a 3-person team, and I think it's very critical to have a diverse group of people with a diverse set of experiences, and also people who are very entrepreneurial and self-motivated. And I think we hire much more for personality traits than we do for a specific experience. So for example, none of the 3 of us had previously worked in the custody business. All 3 of us were born outside of the U.S. in different countries. None of us speak English as a first language. 2 of the 3 had never worked in financial services before. I'm the only exception to that. And so you really get people with a much different set of knowledge and skills and background and experiences who can look at a problem in a different way. And we have hundreds of custody experts running around the bank, but we only have, I think, 1 rocket scientist, and she's on the team. We also have a really talented programmer who has a lot of experience from some of the world's largest technology companies. So it's a different perspective and a different set of skills. So our hiring processes, and I think building a team is the most important thing we do and the biggest driver of our success. And we really have a very broad search, and we're really looking much more for personality attributes than any specific experience of any kind. And the article on establishing an innovation function gives a few more secrets, if you will, on some of our hiring and interviewing processes. But it's a very different role than what HR or recruiting or job specs typically look like. We really don't care what the experience is. We don't really care. There's no set background or anything. It's really a demonstrated track record of excellence, entrepreneurial passion, and people who really want to be a part of something great. So that's how we hire, and it takes a lot of time. I think the last search we did took about 6 months to find the exact right person. But as I said, there's nothing more important. So we're happy to invest that time.
Fantastic, very interesting. One more question now. So time to actually innovate is a big issue for a lot of companies. Everyone wants to be innovative, but the pressures of daily work often prevent that time from being available. Can you speak a little bit to how you work on time, how you make sure that people have that time?
Sure. Well, there's some things we can control and some we can't. So having a dedicated team whose full-time job is only innovation is a really critical thing to do. You can't do it part-time. There is nothing that is more hard to measure, long cycle, or vague than innovation. So if someone has a role that's innovation and something else, the something else will almost always take precedent because it's more visible, it's easier to show progress, and you get quicker outcomes. And so really having full-time dedicated people focused solely on innovation is the first part of the time. And obviously, when you are working with existing business units, they clearly need to invest their time. And as you think about an innovation function, that is we are a free resource to the people with the best ideas. And one of the things we really look at very closely is how committed are the management teams and the business units to advancing their new idea if we are partnering with someone. So clearly we control our own ideas and the stuff we're working on, but if we're working with an existing business unit, which often happens, is management really passionate about it? Are they putting some of their top people on it? Are they investing their own time? Are they putting us in front of clients? How quickly are they moving? And the good part about having a small team is we're not working on the top 20 ideas, we're working on the top 2 or 3. And so one of the filters we really have is we think about how we invest our free time and our free money in the sense of, from a business unit owner's perspective, is how passionate and motivated and eager are those business unit management teams. And I think that's a great test and something really critical, because if you want entrepreneurial outcomes, you really need people to have that entrepreneurial passion and really care deeply about advancing their ideas.
Excellent, excellent. Before we move on, there was a question about when and where will materials be available after the webinar. Just so everyone knows, there will be an email that comes out to everyone that's on the broadcast today. You will receive a link to all the materials, so stay tuned for that. And Phil, why don't I toss it back to you, and we'll go into the next part of the presentation.
Sounds great. So here's the idea process in 3 steps. If you think about it, there's ideas, solutions, and products. And so ideas are obviously fairly self-explanatory. Solutions are the messy part where the experimentation, the rapid prototyping, all of that learning and discovery takes place. And then products is really where you build something build it into the final form where clients see it. And one of the things that really I think is a challenge for many organizations is that, especially the larger they get, is that companies are great at the science of delivery, of doing whatever they do really well and optimizing it and building strong processes that are super efficient and things like that. But if you think about the art of discovery, it's completely different. And so it was one of the fundamental challenges, and I think really cultural challenges, is if you think about the art of discovery, where more effort may not lead to better outcomes, you really can't measure progress in an empirical way over the shorter, meaningful, shorter medium time frame, things like that. You really have it's much more of an art than a science, and I think that having that expectation, people understanding that most things will fail. We're going to iterate rapidly. We're going to figure out what we think our hypotheses are, and then obviously test them. And I think that's a really critical piece. And so if you think about the innovation team, we obviously have our own ideas and look for ideas from all of our colleagues, all 5,000 around the world. The solutions piece is where we focus most of our time on trying to build something that is new and valuable, and then we typically will partner with the core business, obviously because they're the experts at the science of delivery, and taking new solutions that work and turning them into successful products. So that's really the process in 3 main steps. So as we look at ideas and review promising opportunities, a light set of criteria is always helpful. So clearly, when we want to solve a meaningful problem, something that is relevant to a client, it's a need to have, not a nice to have. We obviously care a lot about our expertise and core competencies. Do we have an edge? Do we have some specific expertise or something that we can leverage that will enable us to build something truly differentiated? Clearly, as a general partnership, we care deeply about, in a bank, regulatory, legal, and compliance, and the risk profile of something, making sure it is feasible and really meets all the risk criteria. And frankly, in our organization, some of our risk and compliance folks are some of our most helpful allies and people who are very, very helpful in helping us advance ideas and figure out what's possible and how best to do it. So that's always one of the really nice things about BBH, that people really are constructive. And then we obviously look at scalability. Is this something that really can be significant, and does it have an asymmetric return profile relative to the needed investment? So clearly, a $20 million new venture is not something we're going to necessarily fund and pursue on our own, but if we can invest a few $100,000 and build a very profitable and scalable many multi-million-dollar product, that's clearly the type of thing we're looking for. So a lot of what we do ends up being some sort of technology-enabled product development. And as Chris mentioned, our largest business is custody. It's the pricing and safekeeping of assets. We have about a little over $3 trillion of assets under custody, and so it is a very heavy technology business. So a lot of our work tends to be in technology. And the fifth question here is how it compares to the target client's current situation. So clearly, we want something that is orders of magnitude better than the status quo. And if we're solving a meaningful problem that dramatically improves the target client's current situation, we definitely think we're on the right track. And if you think about the next steps, clearly, what do we need to believe, and then what are the really critical hypotheses that we need to be testing, and obviously going out and testing those. And I think this is a fairly light set of criteria, but it's very helpful guidelines as we think about advancing and prioritizing and evaluating new ideas. So speaking of measurement and governance, we created a couple years ago, with the input of a lot of the senior management at Brown Brothers, a measurement methodology. And this is bowling, not golf. The high score is better. It's a little counterintuitive because if you look at the first three questions, the best answers is a product or an idea that no one else offers, no one's asking for, and is not going to make a lot of money quickly, because clearly that's most likely to be innovative. We obviously, on question number 4, care a lot about revenue from a new market versus productivity or cost savings or things like that. Number 5, I think, is a really interesting one, where if it fits neatly into our existing organization, it's probably not that innovative, right? So things that are on the margins, at the intersections, on the fringes, are much more likely to be very innovative. On question 6, we're very focused on simplifying the value proposition for our clients. And number 7, really back to the scalability point I mentioned earlier, something that really can scale, and both technology and infrastructure in this sense is typically people. So if we need to hire 15 new salespeople, it's probably not that innovative, whereas if it's largely a technology-focused product, it probably will be. And the scale ranges from 4 to 21 points, as you can see in the bottom. We primarily focus on the top 2 quartiles here, and the little color here is from red ocean to blue ocean for those who have read the Blue Ocean books. And so this also ties into some of our governance and investment criteria. We also evaluate and measure all of the broader firm-wide annual budget process. We evaluate and score all of the cases so we can provide portfolio stats on how innovative are the cases overall, what's getting funded, what's being proposed, things like that. So there is some metrics and reporting you can provide on the innovative content of the broader business unit, as well, obviously, as using this as a way to measure your ideas and the things you work on. It's also very helpful to give people a guideline as far as what you're looking for when it comes to innovation. And if you think about new ideas, there really only have 3 main flavors of new ideas. It's sort of like Neapolitan ice cream, right? You've got commercial ideas, things with revenue potential. You have ideas that can improve productivity, or you can have ideas that can reduce costs. So all 3 are good, all 3 are valuable, and clearly things can move from one to the other or impact multiple one of those buckets, but all real new ideas fall into at least one of those 3 criteria. So clearly our main focus is the commercial side, that we of course help out with productivity and cost savings as well when it makes sense. So that is our measurement methodology. And as I mentioned, the investment criteria. So this is how we think about investing our own capital budget. This is the free money we hand out to our colleagues across the firm. So it's an emerging business opportunity with commercial potential. So we really will only fund something that is a commercial opportunity. It's not productivity or cost savings. It's in the top 2 quartiles of the innovation scale, so it's more innovative rather than less. The real X factor here is the passion, as I mentioned earlier, that is the team really committed to success? Is this something they believe in deeply? Are they coming in early? Are they staying late? What evidence do we have from their actions that they're really determined to succeed here? And that's probably the most critical element here. We obviously want something that has a medium or long-term or uncertain payoff. So we don't want to be the second chance round of the firm-wide budget process. If you got 6 things funded, but you really submitted 8, we're not going to look at 7 or 8 unless they're obviously really innovative. And so this is a separate capital budget designed for emerging commercial opportunities. It's not the second chance round of the budget process. And of course, number 5, who can't love clear goals and objectives and accountability, especially in the context of a financial institution. So those are the main criteria. They're not super prescriptive, but typically all the things we've invested in have hit all if not most of those. And it is really important too to make it very clear what's in and what's out in the context of innovation, because having a very distinct focus, I think, is very important. So with that, we will pause for our second round of Q&A, and we just have a few more slides after this, after which we'll open it up to Q&A again.
Thanks again, Phil. Really cool stuff. We have a couple questions that are looking at the line between what's in your group and what's in a business line. So I guess first question along that line is, how do you decide whether something is owned or carries on, managed by your group, if it's outside of a sort of core line of business where someone else will take it up, and when does it get spun out?
So we never want to be in the business of taking ideas away from anyone. So if someone wants to run with a new business idea and they're really excited about it, we're all for it. I mean, we care about the whole firm and building as many new innovative products and services as possible. So the more the merrier. We have a very big tent. And so if there is a business unit, we are more than happy to help out if we can, or if they just want to completely run with it on their own, that's great too. We're all in favor of it, and we're happy to celebrate and advocate and publicize things that are really innovative, even if we didn't have a hand in building them. We're pro-innovation broadly. As far as thinking about some of the specifics around when things get spun out, it's typically if we're working on it and leading it, we want to get the product launched and really get traction and feel very confident about the sales plan, the marketing plan, the ramp up, and really remain involved until something gets to either a fairly steady state or it's that's typically how we think about it. And I think one of the great things about innovating inside a large organization is you have that science of delivery and that scale that you don't have in a startup. And so if you have a new product and it works, well, at BBH, we've got 150 salespeople and relationship managers around the globe who can help us sell that. That's hugely valuable if you think you never have to worry about, do we have the resources to actually do this if it works, because inside a large organization you do. And so I think versus a startup, that's a huge advantage. And so we tend to be fairly involved throughout the process, but obviously the sooner we can draw in our colleagues and make it align with the core processes of the firm, we're better off. So for example, if you think about the art of discovery and the science of delivery, and you think about the science of delivery as a conveyor belt, the sooner we can get our idea or our process on the standard firm process conveyor belt, the better off we'll be, because then it just becomes a normal part of life. So for example, if we have a new product, we want to build a product sheet, we want to have the sales materials ready to go, we want to brief all of our internal salespeople and relationship managers about what it is, and as soon as we can get that, then it becomes easy for them to build it into their next client meetings, have the client conversations, and instead of the small innovation team flying around the world meeting with clients directly, we're much better off educating our internal colleagues and then having them bring up the discussions when and where it's most relevant and applicable. So I think really relying on the scalability, both from a technology perspective as well as a sales and marketing and client feedback perspective is very valuable, and I think one of the biggest assets of innovating inside a large institution that really does have that scale.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, there are actually a bunch of questions. I'm going to focus on one or two more now, and then we really will try and get to all of these if we can at the end. Again, everyone, if you type your questions into the questions bar on the GoToWebinar panel, we'll get to them as soon as we can. Along similar lines, Phil, there's a question about resources for the projects that develop from your efforts. Do folks in the business units or anywhere else in the organization have capacity to add staff or resources to help scale up ideas that look promising?
They do, yes. So it could either be existing resources that are reallocated to an innovative product that's deemed a higher priority than what they're working on today, or we can obviously fund out of our capital budget additional resources, be they internal or external, to build things. So having that capital budget and that dry powder to take the funding issues off the table is a very valuable part of any discussion, because you now know that if it works and if you can get there and the hypotheses prove true and you really think it has potential, the funding will not be an issue. And I think in many organizations it becomes very difficult to get the funding. And so if you can take that completely off the table and say, once we've got it and we're excited about it, it's not going to be an issue to fund, you'll find that a lot more work gets done on the front end, because people now know that their idea can really become real if it all shakes out.
Great, great, great. Okay, one more question for now. Do you have any kind of scorecard that you present to top management? How do you report on how things are going in the innovation program?
So it's typically qualitative rather than quantitative, and you know, I've never really seen anyone who's able to meaningfully quantify the work of an innovation team in the short or medium term, just because it is so difficult to estimate the revenue potential of anything, because it's a non-obvious process. You have no idea what's going to work or when or how, and oftentimes, you know, things will take many shapes before they really become tangible and revenue producing. And so what we do is much more qualitative, and so BBH is a partnership, and so what we do is we will report on what we're working on, where we're investing our time, what we believe to be the most promising opportunities, and so we will present that and discuss our pipeline with senior management and get their input, get their feedback, and their senior management for a reason. So we of course want them very actively involved in the process, and it's also great to get their feedback and insights both on what's in the pipeline and their views and feedback on it, but also on things that they think we should also consider or review. So it's very much of a qualitative discussion of each individual idea. There's really no empirical way to measure it. And I used to be an investment banker, and one of my colleagues is a rocket scientist, and neither one of us have ever figured out, and none of the innovation leaders we've talked to across the world have we ever seen anything that's meaningfully empirical in the short to medium term. I just don't think that it really works. So it's much more qualitative than quantitative.
Excellent, very interesting. I think that'll be a really fascinating insight to ponder over for everyone on the line. Why don't I turn it back to you? Let's get through the rest of the presentation. I think there's really some great material still, and then we'll come back to remaining questions at the end. Back to you, Phil.
Great, Chris, thank you. So a quick slide on governance. So we obviously, it matters a lot. So the real principles that we're looking for is that we need to be thoughtful, quick, and light, and that's really critical. We want to be very transparent in what we're working on and what we're doing, and being very thoughtful. It's very interesting at BBH because when we invest the partners' capital, it's their money and they're in the room. So it's a very flat organization, and it's something where people care very deeply because it is truly their own money. So we obviously want to be very thoughtful stewards of the firm's capital. So senior management receives quarterly updates in a fairly formal and structured way on where our capital has been invested, as well as obviously the more qualitative discussions around what's in the pipeline, what we're working on, things like that. From a specific approvals perspective to invest our capital budget, it takes a maximum of 2 partners. So it's the partner who oversees innovation, who I report to, as well as the partner who oversees whatever business unit we're investing in. And I said maximum of 2 partners because if it's a new product or something that doesn't fall into an existing business unit, only one partner approval is required, and that's from the partner who oversees innovation. So it is a very quick process. Oftentimes, once we've done the work and you know, figured everything out and everyone feels very good about where we are, the ultimate investment decisions are made very, very quickly because all the work has been put in, and it is a very quick process. I think it's very important to have a lot of small investments because you really don't know in advance what will work, and so the more at-bats you have, the more likely you are to find innovative success. So that's the governance piece. There's some really great work that McKinsey, the consulting firm, does on empirical research around innovation, and I think that the world of innovation scholarship and writing and discussion doesn't have a ton of really large-scale empirical work, and I think McKinsey does some really great things, and you can see the citation at the bottom. This is something available on McKinsey's website. It's a really great article, and they've done a lot of empirical research surveying over 2,900 global executives, and I think that they have a lot of high-quality resources that are, I think, very useful as you think about innovation. And they do some really great empirical work. So that's that. This is another slide that we use a lot internally, and it's also not meant to be a pop quiz, but if you think about setting up an innovation program, and we work with a lot of business unit heads and management teams to do this, that they want their own local programs that they oversee and manage, and we obviously help advance and partner with them in doing that. These are really the strategic questions, and as you think about designing an innovation program and building it and the shape you want it to have, every organization is different. Everyone has unique culture and values and processes, so that you really need to customize it to how your organization operates and makes decisions and what makes the most sense. But these 18 questions, I think, are very helpful in thinking about how you're going to build it and how you're going to define success and how to really make it work. And so when internal folks want to build innovation programs, we discuss this page with them, and of course we have our own answers and thoughts around all 18 questions, as well as, of course, wanting the business units to think about what works best in their culture and their local office. So that's something else I think probably we can look at in more detail later. The final slide here is just a quick summary of what we offer, and we have time, the dedicated central resources that we have for innovation, as well as obviously collaborating and sharing knowledge and ideas with our clients, both line management of clients as well as innovation teams for our clients that also have them. As I said before, we've got our funding, our own capital budget, which is really critical. Feedback and idea refinement. We want to be that central hub and the path of least resistance, and that place where anyone with new ideas or thoughts or a desire to be involved comes to. And the more we are that central hub, the more we see, the more we can connect the dots, and the more effective we can be. So we want to be a part of many conversations and be that easiest place for anyone who's innovative and forward thinking to come get whatever they need. And it very much is a client service role internally. I view the firm as all my clients, and I'm also, of course, the innovation sales guy. So people don't want to join a boring movement, and they clearly want to get things out of it, whether it's skill building, career advancement, helping a client solve a major problem, or whatever the various motivations are. And so I think it's very important to get people excited, be passionate about what you do, because again, no one really wants to join a boring movement, and I certainly love my job. So we do that, and we're also, as I said, that hub. So that's the last bit here on our resources. I will, here's a quick bio and contact information. Innovation is my favorite topic. I'm more than happy to continue the dialogue anytime. So give me a shout or send me an email, and here's again a quick bio, and I will now turn it back over to Chris for more questions, as well as he's going to talk about a pretty cool experiment we're going to run together around this topic and what we're going to do. So that's it, and let me turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks very much, Phil. Great stuff. It's worth noting that the Imaginetic Webinars program has always been something that draws a great audience. We always get lots of questions, great dialogue. Today we've set a new record. This is the most participation and attendance we've ever had on a webinar, and that signals something that we've noticed for a while, is that this topic is a really big deal for a lot of you. How to build the innovation function, how the head of innovation works within the firm, you know, how you put that program together. To that end, we'd like to create a roundtable discussion for those of you that are really involved in these kinds of issues in your company. So in the second half of February, we'd like to invite you innovation leaders out there like Phil to come to a roundtable that we'll put together in downtown Boston. We're going to figure out the exact specs based on level of interest, so more details will be forthcoming. But if you are interested at all, please do send an email to both Phil and myself, and we'll follow up promptly and give you more information as it comes together. I think this is going to be really exciting. Phil, do you want to say anything about that?
I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think collaboration and sharing tactics and techniques, both with innovation leaders as well as with senior executives who are thinking about establishing an innovation function. It's always fun. It's always very interesting. I think there's a lot of great knowledge sharing, and I've done a lot of this in the past, and I think the more the merrier. So innovation is a very big tent, and I think it's going to be a fun experiment to see who wants to come join us and continue the conversation in more detail. And we're, of course, happy to share even more about what we do here at Brown Brothers, and as well as connect folks to other people like us who have our mandate in other firms, because I think that the more people we have collaborating and sharing ideas, the more successful we'll all be, and that's always fun. So you know, collaboration leads to great things.
Absolutely. With that, we have a few minutes left. I'd like to try and answer as many other questions as we can. Phil, the big one that's popped up a couple times that we haven't addressed yet is real-world examples. So are there any stories you can share about the kinds of things that your group has done or enabled inside BBH?
Yeah, sure. There's a few. I think a lot of things are still in the pipeline, but one thing we worked on that is out there publicly, and this is sort of a fairly esoteric product, and you know, BBH is really you know, we're a custody bank. It's technology. A business school professor of mine used to say when someone got off topic that there were 4 monks in the world that cared about this topic, and so in some ways I feel a little bit like the 5th monk. But essentially, one of the things we worked on was an automation solution for post-trade messaging in certain countries in the Middle East. Essentially, after a securities trade is made, there are messages and instructions that are shared between the local broker who is making the trade, the exchange on which the trade takes place, and the custody bank that is responsible for settlement. And there's also a number of other parties. And so, in a few countries, the work was primarily phone and fax, manual, error-prone, not scalable, and also presented a lot of risk to market participants trading in these markets. And so we leveraged some of our existing technology and opportunities and really proposed a very interesting automation solution that would take this more manual product and make it manual process and make it automated. We did something similar from a process automation perspective in the telecommunications industry of trying to build a settlements platform for carrier-to-carrier billing, much like we settle trades in our core business, making sure securities and cash move in the right places at the right time to the right people in the right amounts. We were looking to apply those core competencies in a related field about which our firm knew a fair bit. And so wholesale telecom settlements is another thing. So I recognize both of these are fairly esoteric and 5th monk, but you know, that's sort of some of the stuff we are working on. It all tends to be fairly technology driven for the most part, given our scalability needs. So as things unfold and as we launch more things, we'll certainly have more to say, but those are a couple of the things that we've worked on in the past.
Excellent. Would you mind saying a quick piece about open innovation? How often do you go outside the company for ideas and input? And do you collaborate with customers at all?
We absolutely collaborate with customers, and we find that to be very constructive, very helpful, and very interesting. And certainly, we as a firm are fairly fanatical about client service and quality of service. We do spend a lot of time looking out across industries and identifying opportunities and spending a lot of time, as I mentioned, with people who are investors and others who are you know, highly entrepreneurial and knowledgeable and can either help advance our ideas or point us in the direction of things that might be of interest to us. I think you know, it is very critical for an innovation function to be aware of the broader world and really keep our eyes and ears out, looking for promising opportunities as well as, of course, potential sources of disruption. And so we do a lot of that. We go to conferences, both in our innovation-related and otherwise. We spend a lot of time meeting with investors and others and entrepreneurs, and really want to be a part of a lot of conversations because it helps advance our work.
Excellent, excellent. Let's see. I think we'll take one last question. Can you talk a little bit about process and the ideas funnel? What percentage of ideas actually become real-world innovations, and how do you screen that as you go along?
So I know people really like the funnels and the stage gate processes. Ours tends to be a little more informal in the sense of, you know, our idea collaboration tool has over 900 ideas. We have lots of ideas pouring in from all of the bank and people obviously reaching out to us. You know, a very, very, very small percentage is commercialized, but that's you know, that's of course pretty common. So we think about it in 3 main buckets: ideas, solutions, and products. And so we'll typically at any given point be working on probably anywhere from 2 to 5 things in the solution stage that we're directly working on advancing and building and trying to create something that is new and valuable. And then of course hopefully most of those, or always some of those, will become successful products. And so if you think about, many hundreds going to a small handful, to an even smaller handful of successful products. So it's a fairly low conversion rate, but I'm actually very well suited to innovation. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and I'm a Cubs fan, so an 80+% failure rate doesn't faze me at all.
Fantastic. Phil, thanks again. We're at the top of the hour. I want to thank everyone that's been on the line today. This has been a really wonderful presentation. Please do, anyone who is interested in joining us for the Innovation Leaders Roundtable, please reach out to both Phil and myself. We'd love to hear from you. There's a lot of opportunity here to really make some great connections. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful day.